right, it's that time of the week again. Another new episode of the Rocker Dog Podcast is upon us. I'm your host, Tim Dill, and stirring around my periphery is my bestest boy, Charlie. And today we're bringing you our dog-centric conversation with Mike McInnes, guitarist for the Pittsburgh-based pop-punk band Old Neon, who have a new 5-song EP called Resolution that just came out on May 23rd. And this is his confidence-boosting Rocker Dog.
Today we're talking about my 10-year-old Golden Retriever named Jade.
Oh my gosh, 10 years old. I didn't realize we were dealing with a senior. Now, if you take me back 10 years, what prompted bringing Jade into your life?
So Jade was initially adopted as a puppy by my mother and father-in-law. They had a giant mastiff named Rizzo for a number of years, and after she passed, my mother-in-law had found a local breeder that had a golden retrievers, and I think she just sort of jumped into, oh, we need to replace this hole in our heart. And the family ended up having to move around a couple of times within a few years for career things. So by 2018, when she was about 3 years old, they had to move, and they thought that was just going to be difficult. The lifestyle changed. The home they were moving to wasn't set up to take care of a dog well and things like that. So they had mentioned to my wife that they were thinking about rehoming her. And so you can kind of see how that went. And
Right.
me personally, I've been afraid of dogs my whole life. I knew how badly my wife wanted one. And I just sort of was like, okay, this is, you have to, this is why you got married. You promised better and worse. You have to do this. And I had no idea how much better it would be.
Well, that's funny. What prompted the fear of dogs? Anything in particular?
I'm not entirely sure. I do have a fairly large scar on my leg from when I was a paper boy, and a little mean one chewed on my leg. But I
It's by a
had,
Chihuahua.
yeah, I think it was. My grandfather always had a dog, and he lived out kind of in a very rural area, and the dog usually was outside. And they all looked kind of like Toto from The Wizard of Oz. They were all named Mutzo. But they weren't like trained. They would jump on you, and that kind of rambunctiousness that many dogs display. It was just like uncomfortable for me to be around, and just this like, okay, your teeth are out, you're ha ha ha, are you gonna bite me? I was just very, very nervous around them. And even her at first, I thought, oh my God, my wife went up and picked her up and brought her home on I think it was a Saturday evening. And I just thought, oh my goodness, this animal is so big. Like I was so nervous. And I was actually down here one night watching TV, probably definitely within the first month of her being here. But she was kind of like trying to get my attention on the couch behind me. And when I was just like, I don't know what you need outside. And she just immediately like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm communicating with an animal. This is crazy. And it just got better from there.
That's great. Was there any, I mean, it sounds like that might have been your breakthrough moment, but could you kind of pinpoint like that kind of change in your attitude, like that this dog could be an asset?
Yeah, definitely a couple of them. So we had a next door neighbor that we got on really well with for the first, I guess she would have been here about 5 years that we were here. She lived next door to us, and she had a German Shepherd and a little Schnauzer of some sort. And she refused to neuter her German Shepherd. She also refused to walk him on a leash. And one day he got loose, jumped our fence, and went after her. And
Oh boy.
it was early in the morning. I was getting ready for work. I don't even know if I had shoes on yet. And I just grabbed a butcher knife and screamed like blood curdling, woke the whole neighborhood up. Now, obviously, I didn't hurt that dog despite him hurting Jade. But that was just kind of, I had been so afraid of that dog for years. I'd be out mowing the grass, and all of a sudden I'd have my headphones on and I'd turn to the fence, and this thing's teeth baring, and it was frightening. But like in that moment, that dog was afraid of me. So like
Yeah.
that was kind of fun. And then I definitely sitting right here in March of 2020. I work in finance, and the part of the markets that I specifically deal in were really hard hit early on, and a lot of the general fears about what was going on in the market could have very seriously impacted my business. So I was down here working 12-hour days talking to scared clients. And for me, I was relatively new in the role. I hadn't gone through a very volatile period in the market. So
Right.
I'm here in this basement, scared to death to call pension fund managers and insurance companies. And I just, with her sitting under my feet all day, every day, it was just like, I can do this. You can do this. And that's just kind of that was it then. That's when I moved her bed into our bedroom, and my wife was like, "What happened to you?"
And did your wife, was she well versed in dogs? Did she grow up with
Yeah,
dogs?
yeah, they had several growing up throughout her life, and I mean, she loves all animals. She definitely screwed up picking a career because she should be one of those panda bear cuddlers or like manatee rescuers or something like that.
And early in your relationship, was that ever a conversation that you weren't, much of a dog guy, but an animal? I mean, I assume an animal guy as well.
We had cats growing up, and I was like more comfortable with cats just because they are a little bit easier to care for. They kind of take care of themselves in some ways. Now, I couldn't imagine one preferring a cat over a dog because of just how much fun and interactive she is. And
Yeah,
yeah, she has a lot of personality that I enjoy. Jade
yeah,
does.
yeah. It's funny. It's funny. Episode after episode, when cats come up, I hate to throw them under the bus, but I mean, I had a cat growing up, and I just always argued like I had to, battle for its attention. It just didn't want to interact as much as, now my dog just, that's all he wants to do is hang out and do stuff. But so when I originally heard about the band, I looked through your Instagrams. That's kind of my MO is, let's see, which band members have dogs and, what they say about the dogs. And I guess unfortunately, I was going to try to get your vocalist on, Drew, as well. And he's actually going through it seems like a tough loss. I went through his Instagram. He lost his dog Nico, who was a beagle and I think 13 or 14 years old. As a bandmate, how did that kind of did that come up, that discussion, or were you aware that there was, that this was imminent, I guess?
Yeah, it's funny. We actually, when we first kind of got together and started recording our first record, we did a lot of it here in my basement, and Drew would bring Nico over, and Jade would bully Nico, and we'd have to lock her upstairs, and Nico would hang out with us down here while we worked. But we were out in Philadelphia for a week recording our record back in November, and Drew, after he got home, he just sort of like being away for 8 or 9 days, whatever it was, just sort of noticed, well, my dog is slower and
Yeah.
not the same. And they took her in. I think he was concerned about maybe a blockage or something in her digestive tract. I can't remember what he was initially concerned about. And that was right around Thanksgiving. And they said, no, it's cancer.
Yeah, that stinks. Well, pass my condolences. I'm sorry for his loss, and I know some of the things he talked about was, that Nico came into his life when he really needed a companion. I guess this is before he's engaged now, and gave him so much love and purpose every day.
Yeah, I mean, I met Drew not too long after he finished college. So he graduated college in 21, I believe, like right or maybe 20, but definitely the height of the pandemic. And yeah, he had adopted Nico, I'd also believe from a relative right around then when so he'd moved back to Pittsburgh from where he went to school in Philadelphia and then was trying to figure out what kind of career am I going to do during the pandemic because I plan on doing live sound and there aren't concerts going on. So yeah, he was living in an apartment with that little guy, and yeah, like I said, he was a big part of all of our early recording projects.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's interesting that he mentions giving him a purpose. Do you feel like Jade gives you a purpose? I mean, is there a point where you need to, is Jade part of your everyday routine?
Yeah, it's a great point. And I mean, that certainly for me didn't happen immediately, but it was like, oh, cool. We have this new person at home. I want to go walk her. That's kind of exciting. But it got to, especially during the pandemic when I could work from home, I'd get up early, do like my things that I must have done today, and then I'd be able to walk her and be back at my desk by 9 a.m. And then we could go for another longer walk, maybe if I had a meeting get canceled or something. So that was just a lot of fun. I mean, it was just good to be outside, good to be out exercising and stuff. And especially like then where I'm all I'm doing is sitting in this basement staring at these monitors. yeah, she definitely gave us a sense of purpose.
Now, are you guys based in Pittsburgh or in the general area?
I am in the city, yes.
Okay. It's funny, I grew up in like the Syracuse area, so central New York,
Okay.
and for no good reason other than probably the color scheme, I love the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I always had a affection for Pittsburgh, and the people that I've met from the city always talk highly of it and they love it. I'm curious, is it a good dog city?
I think so. So it's an interesting question because Jade was, like I said, almost 4 when we got her, and I don't think she had many opportunities to socialize around other dogs. So like early on, my wife and I were like, we got her, I guess, in the fall, and then by the following spring, we'd say, oh, let's try to take her to, these different events outside. Just sort of found that she doesn't do well with them.
Hmm.
Maybe if we tried harder, but it just was like, I'm not going to drag her to a brewery where she's just going to be pulling and bark. It just, she didn't want to be there, and like, it would have been selfish of me to do it. So I think in a lot of ways, like we don't like really engage in a lot of like dog activities with her because she is like a little bit not aggressive, but it's just something she doesn't seem to be comfortable with. But having said that, there are trails along, we have 3 rivers here, and there are
Yep.
trails along all of them. And that's just great to get up on like a nice morning, like this time of year when it starts to get into the 60s and something on a Saturday morning, and just to head down by the rivers and walk for an hour or so.
Yeah, that's great. I was going to comment just on her breed. A golden retriever seems to be so, the cliche of the friendliest dog ever, but there must have been something in her upbringing that kind of, as you were saying, maybe she's not as socialized.
I think that sort of seemed to be what it, just from what I was trying to understand and read up on it better. I feel like that might have because they did just move to a brand new area when they got her and didn't have a social circle, and there were no one, they didn't know anyone there to go have like a dog play date or anything. I
Yeah.
know that she stayed in a kennel a couple of times, like when they would come visit, and we've kenneled her a few times when we've had to travel, and she does fine with it. Yeah, it just seemed like if she's not, like I said, she's not aggressive with them. If we're walking, here's a good example, and there is a large dog behind a fence barking at her, she'll probably leave it alone. But if we're walking down the street and somebody has like a little Lhasa Apso or something, she'll just go nuts that that thing is between me and she's in the middle of us. So um, and it's not like she's aggressive trying to, but she's pulling and causing a scene.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she might just want to say hi, hello. I want to circle back. It's funny. I should have when we were on this topic, but you mentioned your neighbor and the German Shepherd and the other dog. What was kind of do you ever have a resolution with the neighbor?
I
Not,
have a
not
great
that, I mean, it's the last thing you want to do is tell people how to act, but it's like, your dog really needs to be leashed. It really needs to be
Yeah,
tamed, I guess.
and really, unfortunately, after 5 years, that was really the end of our friendship. We're still friendly and civil, but in terms of like coming over and watching a Steeler game or something, like that was
Right.
kind of the end of that. But she was in the Air Force Reserve, and in during the first year of the pandemic, she listed her house for sale and moved back to, I think, Ohio, where her family was from. And several months later, I got a call from the FBI that they were doing a background check on her for some kind of security clearance. And I, you know, answered very honestly. She was a great neighbor. If we were going away, she would make sure to throw some trash like out on in front of our home on trash day, so it looked like we were there, or someone you could count on to pick up packages. Like a good neighbor for sure. The last question they asked me was, "Does she ever shown anything that shows she doesn't follow rules well?" And I said, "She has a German Shepherd dog that she doesn't walk on a leash as required by local law, and I know for a fact it has bitten other dogs in the neighborhood."
Oh, wow.
That was Jade's revenge.
Now, does she mix? You mentioned something. I try to see how the dog might fit or not fit in the band or crossover. It sounds like the dog doesn't like the music, so the dog's not like a rehearsal dog or a studio dog or a venue dog.
Not really. So when for a while we did practice in this room, so she was definitely around the band often and that sort of thing. Historically, the recording I would do would be in here, so she would usually be around if I wasn't playing things exceptionally loudly. So
Hmm.
that would really be where I would say she's been around while I've tracked a lot of the stuff we've released.
Yeah. And there's no merch, there's no guitar picks with her likeness on it or anything, like that, right?
No, not yet. We definitely earlier on we would do more things on social media where we would all post pictures of our pets and things like that. I guess we haven't really done that in a while, but yeah, maybe we could.
It's the key to success to get a whole block of fans that are also dog fans. And as far as training, have you done any training with Jade?
She's such a good dog. I mean, for me, like I was a total novice with this, so I've been learning as I go and just absorbing advice from friends and things, neighbors and things like that. She is very docile. She doesn't bark in the house at all. If you open the front door to get the groceries, she'll just sort of stick her head out it and kind of like, hey, what's going on? She's just such a good girl like that. She doesn't jump on furniture. She doesn't really jump on people. And what's funny is my in-laws said she was like a terror, and I don't really know what happened. If it was just the fact that like my wife and I, were able to lead a little bit more active lifestyle and things like that, and would be out in the backyard, like my wife and I just like passing a soccer ball back and forth while she's running and all that sort of thing. So really, she doesn't really seem to need it. If we're having people over tonight, or like I'll make sure she gets a really long walk so she's like a little more worn out, or if we go up to like my in-laws for Christmas or something, we'll make sure we really try to wear her out before we get in the car. But otherwise, she is just a pretty well-behaved, just sweet dog.
That's great to hear. Well, let's wind down the show with five fast, frivolous questions that I have trademarked. I haven't trademarked. I call the Zoomies. And the first one, actually, I'm interested for you because being a non-dog guy
Not
and
anymore.
becoming a dog guy, do you allow Jade to lick your face?
Sort of, not preferably, but it does happen.
Okay, that's probably the most frivolous question, but for you, I think it's profound because is it something that you don't enjoy, but is that something like I'm not quite there yet?
I see what else she licks, and I don't know.
And there's that.
Yeah, that's that. But I mean, I like her, so she can, she can do it. I let her do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. When you're walking your dog every day and he's sticking his nose in certain things, you're like, oh God, I got to remember that. I got to remember that later when he comes in for a kiss. Okay, question two is, does Jade have a theme song? Or what would her theme song be if she comes, walking down the red carpet or
Oh,
up
my
to the front?
wife has so many songs that she sings to her. It would be one of these little jingles my wife makes up about her. We come up with new nicknames for her all the time too. And so yeah, my wife is always humming some little thing in a cutesy voice at her.
Okay. Now, I know Jade doesn't tour with you, but hypothetically, if Jade went on tour, what would she want on the tour rider?
She would probably really like to have a really, really big rawhide shoe thing. And she, anytime that like we've been given as a gift, like a fancy big crown looking thing, or like these different things like that. I mean, she will work on that for several weeks. So that would keep her busy, I think, in the bus.
All right, perfect. Question four is, do you have a dog voice? Again, I'm curious, as a converted dog guy, have you gone to the high-pitched baby talk yet?
No, no, I just I'm like, oh hi, Jade. Wow, Jade's here. How you
Okay,
doing today, Jade? That's it.
casual and enthusiastic. Okay. And question five, I always ask if there's a dog organization or a service that you'd like to shout out, and that could be anything at all, from a groomer or a trainer or whatever it may be.
Yeah, actually, thanks for the suggestion. Sam McClune here in Pittsburgh. She's a groomer. Her husband is the lead singer of one of the best bands in town, Mallory Run, and she takes care of Jade usually when she needs a hair trimming and things of that sort. And she's just a real sweetheart, and she's about to have her first baby in a few weeks. So,
Oh my
uh,
gosh,
yeah,
perfect timing. Congratulations. Well, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you about the band Old Neon and what's your plans for the summer. Let's jump ahead just because there is a bit of lead time to the podcast. But do you guys have any summer or fall plans?
so we spent last fall recording our new EP with Matt Brash from the Wonder Years, which was for the first time we didn't record ourselves. We kind of decided we needed a referee to manage the recording and
Sure.
manage the way the songs ended up getting recorded. And it was just an awesome like dream come true experience. It was just so like creatively satisfying. That's not normally the part of the band and the music I like, is the recording. I like playing the shows. But we have released the first single from it. We'll have another one out here this month in April, and then probably right around the time this premieres, May 23rd, we're releasing the entire EP. It's called Resolution. Like I said, it was recorded, produced, engineered, co-written with Matt Brash from the Wonder Years. His bandmate Nick Steinborn mixed it for us, and those guys were cool enough to get Will Yip, who's sort of a legend in alternative rock music, to master it for us.
Well, best of luck. We look forward to hearing it and expecting big things from you guys. So thanks for coming on the show and sharing Jade. And yeah.
I really appreciate you having me. I was really excited when they asked me to do this. This is cool.
Great. We're happy to have you.
Carl, you're a damn good dog.